Hello everybody, and welcome to my Rastakha's Rumble card review for the Druid cards of the new expansion. I will be rating these cards based on a scale of 1 through 10, just on how good I think the cards are going to be in general, competitively, and standard. As a side note, I will be completely wrong on most, if not all, of these cards, so take whatever I say with a mound of salt, and let's just get into the reviews. Off we got Savage Striker, probably the best of all the Druid hero attack cards, but that compliment doesn't really mean very much because this card alone is good, but the whole archetype it's trying to fit in is not going to be very good. It's just not very efficient. It's not going to be as competitive as the other Druid archetypes, and that's just how it's going to be. I have very little faith in this card ever really seeing that much play because there's no way to get this to do above 2 or 3 damage reliably in standard when there's still these Malgos and Togwaggle Druid decks still running around. And even then, there's going to be always a better deck that's going to be probably better than this. But it's really cool. I like the concept. I just don't think it's going to be good. So I'm going to rank Savage Striker a 2 out of 10.
Next up, we have Ironhide Direhorn. I really like the design aspect of Druid getting a bunch of dinosaurs because I love dinosaurs, but as a 7-drop, 7/7, doesn't even have taunt, doesn't do anything for the board state. I can't rate this card above 3 out of 10. It just won't see competitive play. I mean, it's a good budget card, but I don't think it'll see any real play, but I don't think it's as bad as the Druid hero attack power archetype, and I have to rank it above that archetype at the very least. Next up we have Pounce. This card is supposed to be part of this attack hero druid archetype that they're going for, but that archetype itself is garbage. This card doesn't save it. This has to go down to 2 out of 10. I don't think it's the worst card of the set, but it's close. It's just not that good. Next up is Predatory Instincts. This card may seem really bad, but I can see it being played in one deck, and that being Taunt Druid. It may be dependent on how fast or slow the meta is, whether or not they need this card and need to have Hadronux in their hand as soon as possible. The deck already has a lot of draw. I don't think they'll need to get Hadronux with a specific tutor that can only get Hadronux. And if it was put in the deck and you already draw Hadronux, it's a dead card. It will not do anything. It would be the only beast in your deck. So for that reason alone, I'm going to have to rank it a 4 out of 10 because it might see play in one deck. Next we got Spirit of the Raptor. Funny enough, I kind of like this card. I feel like it is a fair bit more functional than the legendary it is supposed to support. And I think this card can legitimately be played as just a good 1-drop, but only kind of in an odd druid if that ever does come into fruition. But other than that, I don't see this card being played at all. It has to be a 3 out of 10. Better than the other cards of this archetype, but still pretty bad. Then we got Mark of the Loa, which is probably one of my least favorite cards in the set. Not the worst card in the set. It's still somewhat functional, but I don't like it at all. I just feel like it's a weak Druid card just so Druid doesn't get more strong cards. It doesn't have that much going for it. Landscaping was 3 mana for 2 2/2s, but nobody ever plays that card, so I don't really see it being played for the token aspect. And the taunt aspect is just not that good. There's cheaper cards to do it. So I don't see this being played ever, but yeah, I gotta give it 1 out of 10. Next, we got Stampeding Roar. When I see this card, it reminds me a lot of Eureka for Shaman, but unlike Eureka, you're actually using the minion from your hand, so it goes 2 cards to get your 1 minion out, possibly early, if it's on turn 6 or before whatever mana cost the beast is. So it's more tempo oriented, and it gives it rush, which is kind of good, but I just don't think it'll be played because the Druid combo decks and stuff, they don't use beast, and if they do use a beast, they only want it for its death rattle, Hadronux. And I don't see this card being played at all. Eureka didn't see play, and it was... I think Eureka's a good card. I like Eureka, but For Druid, I don't think it's going to work, and I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 10. Again, not a really bad card, it's just there's not the support for it. Druid's not playing Beast, and they haven't played Beast in a while, and sure, you can get Tarantus or whatnot on turn 6 or even earlier, but building an entire deck around that doesn't seem all that competitive. And then out of nowhere, we got Tree Speaker, which, what can I say about this card? It's a Treant Synergy card that looks really good, but I don't think it'll see any play because Treants don't see play. And if they want to push an archetype, I really think they need to just print more Treants. They have enough Treant payoffs, I think, at this point. There's what, 3-4 cards that make Treants or are Treants. I don't think that's good enough for an entire archetype to be based around. So I'm gonna have to give this a 2 out of 10. Not horrible, and if there are more Treants, I'm gonna have to think of it more highly, and it'll be an instant consideration for any token Druid that use Treants. But for now, I don't think it'll see play at all, and it's not gonna bring Treant Druid out of whatever retirement home it was in. Our first legendary is War Druid Loti. Not much to say here, it's just a good card. All 4 forms are good in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the spell damage when you want to use swipe, or when you need to rush down a 4 health minion, or you need to stop aggro, or you need to kill a big thing in 2 turns. I think it's just a good card. It's just, it won't be good enough to be put into most of the Druid decks right now, I feel. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, but when the rotation happens, I think it'll be more of a consideration for Druid to have this small minion that can do a lot of different tasks for it. Last up, we have the legendary Druid minion Gonktharaptor. This card is just bad. It makes your hero power act like Fool's Bane if you're able to kill a minion. So in some ways, it's better or worse than Fool's Bane, which take that any way you will. I'm kind of disappointed though, because it's not that good of a payoff, I think, for a legendary minion for an archetype that they're trying to push. This ability could have been put on like a supporting minion, like an epic or a rare even, or a common. And I think this effect is even worse than Spirit of the Raptor. I think Spirit of the Raptor does this job of supporting this archetype better than the legendary does. And so just for that reason, I have to rank this a 1 out of 10. I don't think this is a good payoff for this whole deck archetype, and it's probably not going to see any play at all. And that's going to be it of my review of the Druid cards of this expansion. I feel like Druid was intentionally made weaker to not farther the already powerful decks of the meta, Togwaggle and Malygos Druid. And I feel like they did a good job making it weak, but I think it's a little too weak, but that's just me complaining some more. I'm going to be trying to crank these out as fast as I can before release, now that all the cards have been revealed, and expect another one soon, tomorrow if not the day after. And until then, see you all guys later.